Complementary and Supplementary Angles, number 2. When we last left our heroes, we learned or relearned that if I have two angles that add to 90 degrees, they are known as complementary because a complement is the right thing to do. And thus, complementary angles add up to a right angle. Whereas if they add to exactly 180 degrees, we learned that they are supplementary angles. And that is because if we have twice as many p's as complementary, 2 p's and 1 p, twice as many p's gives us twice as many degrees. So 180 for supplementary and 90 for complementary. Today, we are going to utilize that information to do a little bit of algebra. So let's dive right in. Because we're doing algebra today, not only do we have a shorter amount of problems, we don't have our normal 10 or even like 8 like we had last time. We have 5. We also want to make sure that we are writing these out, as I'm going to write out each one of these for you. So if you don't already have it, go grab something to write with and something to write on. It could be a pretty small amount of paper. We only have 5 problems, but you're going to want to write these out. So pause this video right now if you don't already have it. Go grab that, come back, and then hit play, and we'll do number 1 together. And in preparation for number 1, I want to teach you about my method of doing algebra. So I'm going to call this, let's use purple. Purple's my favorite color. So since I'm claiming this, I'm going to put it in my favorite color. Dylan's algebra method. All right. One term that you grew up learning about in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, maybe even further back from 6th grade, that most people know off the top of their head is called PEMDAS. And that stands for the order of operations when doing a mathematical expression. So not an equation, but an expression, meaning there's no equal sign. And that means that going from left to right, we need to, in order, do parentheses first, then our exponent, then our multiplication, division, addition, and finally subtraction. Where addition and subtraction are grouped together, multiplication and division are also grouped together. Well, with algebra, what you're really doing is a backwards game to try and solve for x where there is an equal sign. So you go from an expression to an equation. And you have to do the opposite of everything that's happening from one side to then both of your sides. And because that's backwards, because it's the opposite, we need to do the opposite of PEMDAS, which is SAD MEP. But you'll notice that most of the time on our assignments, and in general when you do algebra, you don't actually have parentheses. They're pretty rare. There are problems where sometimes it's full SAD MEP, but the majority of the time you don't have the P there. And so it remains a very easy to remember acronym, the very most emo of them all. It could be tough being a teenager, I know. Especially when you're in middle school, and even before you're technically a teenager at like 11, 12 years old. You got that Evanescence music blaring in the background. Sad me. So I'm going to say now and refer to this anytime that we have an algebra problem moving forward, as we need to use sad me, or the 3-step process of solving algebra problems, where we do subtraction and addition first, division and multiplication second, and finally our exponents third. The other thing that we will do with algebra problems is I'm going to just create one here. Say we've got a very simple x plus 2 is 4. I'm going to draw a line right down the middle on my equal sign that denotes very clearly the two sides of your equation. Now you don't have to do this. I actually didn't do this as a student. I just sort of like kept track of it. But as a teacher, I find it's very helpful because sometimes you can make an easy mistake and you could like do something like this, where you think you're writing -2 on both sides, but you actually are doing 2 to the same side. And if I don't have this line, sometimes that can be tough to see. But with this line, I could see, oh, whoops. This -2 needs to be on one side and the other. And here's my other way of teaching this. So not only are you doing the opposite, so the opposite of plussing being minusing, and you can see that in the grouping. The opposite of subtraction is adding, the opposite of addition is subtraction. You are doing this to both sides. Now, I am a triplet. I grew up as one of 3 brothers. And as a triplet, I know how important equity is. And even more than that, equality. If I was ever given something less or more than one of my brothers, we would sort of be accountants and take note of that. And then there would be a war that would take place. We would get in some sort of fight because we all wanted the same. I mean, really, we all probably wanted more, but we'll settle for the same. So the same would at least keep the peace. And so likewise, I like to think of my 2 sides of my equation sign as brothers, or sisters, really, gender neutral, just siblings. And the point is they need to get the exact same thing. So if I subtract 2 on one side, I better make sure to subtract 2 on the other side. If I don't, if I change it by even a little bit, like I subtract 1 instead of 2, I'm going to cause a mathematical war and all hell's going to break loose. And we don't want that. So I will refer to SADME, and I will also refer to the brothers' quarrel of always make sure to do the same thing on both sides. Okay, with that, we're going to dive into our problems. And I'm going to close this in 3, 2, 1, closed. All right. Well, I guess cleared. Now it's closed. Welcome back to our problem. Number 1. You are seeing 2 angles here that add to this 90, this little square. And we know that 2 angles that add to a right angle are complementary because a complement is the right thing to do. So how we write this out is I've got 5x, and I know that if I add my other 5x, my 2 angles together, that equals this 90 for this right angle. So I'm going to write it out just like that, do the same thing on yours, and then I'm going to write the line straight down the middle like I showed you in the lesson preview. If I have 2 similar terms on one side of the equal sign, some algebra review, I can combine them. This is known as combining like terms. So you could think of these x's as animals if you want to. I've got 5 lions over here and 5 lions over here, something different over here like a penguin. Love penguins. I can combine the 5 lions and 5 lions to make 10 lions. And I denote lions with an X. Maybe it'd be better if there were 10 xylophones. And I still have the equal sign, and I'm just copying what I have on the right because I haven't done anything to it. All right, here's another Dylan's patented, not really patented, Dylan's non-patented mathematical technique. Anytime I have a number and a letter that are touching, there's no addition sign on them, there's no subtraction sign, no division, multiplication, they're just touching. It means that they are multiplying. And the way I like to think of that is I think about rabbits. And if you stick 2 rabbits together in the same cage, often they will multiply. And so a number and a letter that are touching, it's a little gross, but it helps you remember, they are multiplying. And the opposite of multiplying is divide. So I need to divide both sides by 10. I switched to purple because I gave you a little unpatented math advice there. X is 9. And if you don't know how to do 90 divided by 10, you've got your Desmos calculator here for you. At least I hope you do. If not, pull it up. All right. Number 1 is 9. Notice we're not going to type degrees in general on these assignments. Just type the number. That's what your system knows how to grade with. Always the number, never like a comma or any other symbols. All right, it says the angles are complementary, so we know that these also add to 90. So let's do this. 3x plus 4 plus 50 is equal to 90. Let's go get our SADME now and write it up here because we have a multi-step problem here. We're going to subtract and add first, then we're going to divide and multiply. Well, we've got like terms. We've got some similar penguins or lions or whatever animal you want to use here. I've got a 4 and I've got a 50. It's not a great 50. That'll help. I can combine those 2 terms and make 3x plus 4 plus 50 is 54, equaling 90. Now that I've simplified all my like terms, I could use SADME. Step 1, subtract and add. Well, I am adding, so I'm going to do the opposite and subtract. So minusing 54. Again, I hope you're writing these out because it just makes this so much easier. 3x equals 90 minus 54 is 36. Then I've got my rabbits again, a number touching an x, so I divide. Always think dividing when you see that situation. 36 divided by 3, x is 12, so I'm just going to write 12 as my answer. Hit pause if you need more time, but I'm going to close this in 3, 2, 1, close. All right, 12. Ooh, mathlete extraordinaire. Thank you for the compliment. That's the right thing to do. All right, once again, all right, get it, right angle. We are adding to 90. And I'm going to simplify these like terms before I even start. Watch this. I've got 13x and 9x. 13x and 9x, I know 13 plus 9 is 22. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that down. 22x. And then in a separate color, I'll do blue. I have got, it's a little tough to see these. Oh, that's too large of a, there we go. Let's just erase a little bit of it. All right, like that. That is a plus, I guess I need a little bit larger eraser than that still. There we go. Plus 1 and another plus 1. Okay. So I have a plus 1 and a plus 1, which makes a plus 2. So I'm going to write that as well. 22x plus 2 is 90. Let's consult our EMO acronym. Sad me. Subtract and add first, then divide and multiply. I got to do the opposite of each. Subtracting and adding first. It's adding, so I'm going to subtract 2. Copy my 22x. Set that equal to 90 minus 2 is 88. Then I've got my rabbit situation again where I need to divide. So x is 88 divided by 22 is 4. So my answer is going to be 4. And hopefully that like term explanation worked. Rewind if you need more time. Once again, 3, 2, 1, closing. All right, 4. 4. All right, 3 down, 2 to go. 60% of the way there. For the first time, we do not have a 90-degree angle. We have a 180-degree supplementary straight angle linear pair. I have an accent. Linear pair. 55 plus 25x is not 90 now, but 180. So write out exactly what you have with a plus sign in between them, equaling 180. Sad me. We are going to subtract the thing that doesn't have x, so 55. That gives us 25x. 180 minus 55 is 125. Then we could divide by what's in front of x, the rabbit situation again. X is 5. Now I want to show you something real quick. One of the reasons I love algebra so much is that you can always check it. So I know that these are supposed to add to 180 because they're on the same line. So if I do 55 plus, notice I'm on my calculator over here, 25, and I'm going to plug in what I thought x was, which is 5, so I stick in a 5 there. And look, it equals 180 perfectly. So I know that my answer of 5 is correct. It's so powerful. So often you could turn in an essay for English or, an experiment for science, and you just really don't know how it's going to be received. I don't know, maybe they'll like my ideas, but I won't write it out correctly, or I'll miss a step. With math, algebra specifically, if I go through and check my work and know I'm right, I could turn something in and be confident that I'm going to get 100% on it before I walk away. That's power, and that's really cool. All right, we've got a 3x and a 9x. Those are both penguins or lions or whatever you want to call them. 180. They are the same kind of like terms. So they simplify. 3 plus 9 is 12x is 180. And this entire assignment could be sponsored by rabbits, because we've got the rabbit situation again here. 180 divided by 12. Let's figure out what that is. I'm going to close this in 3, 2, 1. 180. Do 180 divided by how many total x's you have? Not like ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends. In your problem, x's. I commonly think of that joke. Math is one of the only time you want to get all your x's together and try and solve problems. Get it? All right. 15. Right, more like double right because it's 180. On. There you go. We learned a lot today. Sad Me, which we'll review in future assignments that need algebra. We've reviewed complementary and supplementary angles. We've combined them with some algebra. And 5 problems done. I hope this video finds you well. Thank you so much for your time. If you got all 5 correct, high five. If you got at least 4 correct, then you know it's going in the grade book, and that is a win all around. Until next time, this has been your teacher Dylan. Say, what up? Hope you're doing well. Bye-bye.